You know, the stones in a stream are polished and smoothed by the moving water, and they become facilitators of the flow rather than blocking it. And it's really a lovely analogy to the sharp edges that we have in our personalities and our egos, and everybody has some. But how they're smoothed by our contact, our connection, our awareness of the rolling river God, or the Spirit, our own spirit within us, and with the power that courses through life. And there is one. And we can see, as I said in the opening treatment, we may not know exactly what it is, but we can see what it does. And we can feel its presence in our own bodies, our own aliveness. And when we meditate, it's there. Right. So this power is always attempting to find an outlet through us by flowing through us like that river. And that it smooths our edges over time. This month, April, we've been talking about spring, spring blooming, the spring flower, the April showers that bring May flowers and blooming where you're planted. And today, we're going to incorporate the rolling river God into spring cleaning. You know, they say in spring a young man's fancy turns to romance, but everybody else's turns to cleaning. Right? It just seems appropriate. You know, I lived in Canada for years, and there are long winters, lots of snow, and after 6 or 7 months of it, you really start craving color. So the first time there's a spring day, I mean, the entire city goes to the garden center. And many times it's too early, and everything freezes and you have to go back and do it again. But that's something in us that wants to participate in the growth of the season, wants to plant, wants to see things come through, wants to participate in the creative process. It's natural, and this time of year kind of just does it for us. So we're using cleaning this morning as a reference to us smoothing out our own perceptions to make way for the natural flow of good that is ever attempting to come through us. Not more for this person or that person, equally for everyone. Individualizing itself, personalizing itself, turning itself into the best ideas that we have. So spirit seeks and finds its own level in us, and that's what water does. You know, in Canada, in the Rocky Mountains, the Bow River starts up there. The water flows down, becomes the Bow River. It moves all across Canada in the provinces, finds its way into the ocean, seeks and finds its own level. Well, consciousness does that too. And let's put it this way. The source, God, does that too. It seeks its own level in us, that it cannot give us more or less than we actually hold to be true, possible, and can identify with. That's what gives us this beautiful experience of being individuals. So it does it through our own stream of consciousness. Don't you know that you're always running a story in your head, right? It's a stream of consciousness, right? So another spring metaphor, of course, is planting, as I talked about a moment ago. But before the seed can become the fruit or the flower, the soil must be prepared. And weeds and rocks must be removed. In the Christian teaching, Jesus talked about the thistles being removed. You ever held a thistle in your hand? It's very prickly. And all this is done to prepare the soil to receive the seed, giving the seed every advantage to grow. So for humans, we think of cleaning or cleansing. Most of us are familiar with an internal body cleanse, but what about a soul cleanse? The soul of us, the subjective realm of mind, is the soil that ideas are impressed upon. So how to actually clean the soul? Well, here are some words of advice from the ancient wise man Lao Tzu. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there's nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Now, those words could be easy to misinterpret because he's not telling us to live like a monk in a cell with nothing but a mat and a begging bowl, but to have the attitude of a monk. That all is well right now, that everything I need is provided right now, that this place that I am, God dwells in, that sense of being right here, right now, is very cleansing to the soul. That's what Lao Tzu was aiming for, to keep our soul, our inner self in that place of calm and peace and even cheerful expectation, knowing that all is well now. And so the next moment will be a replication of all is well now. And then it's now, and it's now, and it's now, and it's now. So my understanding is he's showing us the value of non-resistance. He's showing us the intelligence of stopping the mind from wandering into the future or the past, which is a really big practice. And we all are aware of what that's like. Because the mind wants to do that. Bless you. And the wisdom of always remaining in gratitude. Non-resistance to what is, feeling grateful for what is, and staying present. Melody Beattie, who's written some really good books, said, gratitude makes sense of the past, brings peace to today, and opens a space for a vision of tomorrow. Gratitude is very powerful. And it's a very intelligent response to life, isn't it? To be grateful for everything that is right now. So these states of mind, being grateful, being present, non-resistant to anything that's going on, are very cleansing to the soul. It is preparing the soil of the mind to receive new ideas because there's nothing blocking the flow. So desire then becomes not a cry to fill a void, which really is what traditional prayer was about. It was a cry unto the universe to fill something that seemed to be missing or lacking, but a simple welcoming of what is always flowing, that stream of consciousness of God knowing itself as this life, this universe, and you. So we make a space in our mind for it to flow into our personal experience. Now I want to ask you, can you feel the distinction between welcoming and grasping? Between desperation and inspiration? Between longing and embracing? Those things are choices we make all the time. Are we inspired to see a better idea, a better future for ourselves, for the world? Or are we desperately seeking an answer? It's a shift in attention from one way of thinking to another, and that is all it is. Nothing has to happen out there first to move us out of desperation into inspiration. We have to move our mind. And that's the beauty of intelligence. It knows how to do it. Longing for something puts it off, puts it away from us. It puts it into the lack mix. But if we embrace the essence of it, embrace the idea of it, embrace the reality of it because we thought of it, then we're already starting to experience it, right? And inevitably, some form of it will reveal itself in our life. Some experience of it will extend out from us, and we will, as they say in the world, attract it. So one of the most liberating aspects of our teaching is that God is more like a moving river than a person. And God is the stream of consciousness extending itself as our personal consciousness. A reference to being made in the image and likeness of it. So that doesn't mean God looks like us, does it? We're made in the image and likeness of consciousness, of a moving river of intelligence and love. That's who we are. And that does not mean that God looks like us, but that we are what it is, and that we are always moving in its presence, and it's always moving in us, a stream of consciousness. So let's ask ourselves, is this river flowing through me? Is my mind clear? Are there some leftover ideas, maybe from my upbringing or whatever, that might need some smoothing out or even removal? You know, do you need an earth mover? Or will a shovel do? You know, Sometimes it feels like, bring the forklift or whatever it takes to get this out of me, right? People carry around a lot of unresolved stuff. And they have emotions. And there's energy around them. And they can create havoc in a group, believe me. And in our own health, in our own relationships. So it behooves us to really look at this and say, I'm ready to let this flow come through me. I'm going to open up my mind and let go of any old rocks. Sometimes we're like little beavers building dams in consciousness. We don't even know we're doing it. That's resistance. Resistance creates persistence. It's an old metaphysical saying. When you push against something, you prop it up, right? You make it more real. So every day we have to decide, do I believe the power in my life is a rolling river God? Or do I believe the power is in what I see on the news? Every day we ask ourselves that question, and every day we answer it in some way. Where is the power to make all things new? Where is the origin of it? Where does it exist? Where can I find it? Where can I feel it? If not in us, where? You know, I think it was Gene Houston who said, if not us, who? If not now, when? And we can apply that to our own personal experience. So what we can see, though, is extremely convincing, isn't it? That's the thing. That's the paradox of living in a time-space dimension. That's the paradox of being a spiritual being in a human body, is that the outer world is really seductive. And it's really easy to think that's the only reality. Because you can see it, you can touch it, you can smell it, you can name it, right? You know, when Adam and Eve had to leave the garden, it's a great metaphor for us. They were told to name everything. And that's just give meaning to things. They don't give meaning to you. You give meaning to things. I'm going to show this DVD on Wednesday night called One. And these young men set out on a quest to make a film trying to ask all the great wisdom teachers in the world, what is the meaning of life? And nobody can really answer it. Except for me, it's just the meaning of life is to give meaning to life. And that's what naming everything was about. So what meaning do we give to the outside world? Can we see it as a transitional? It's like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and a play, and all the men and women in it are actors. Can we see it with a less concrete point of view? Can we see it as moving along with the river? And that those of us who can identify ourselves as part of the creation of something new or better, then we can move it. And you move it in one-on-one relationships, you move it in your family, you move it in your church, you move it in your office by being the positive presence, being the light, being the voice of truth, not falling into the chatter, not giving weight to the negative. It's a practice, yes, of bringing your whole teaching into everywhere that you go. It's like we extend the river. We extend the flow. So we have to find ways to be an open conduit through which the good we desire can be revealed, the good we desire for the world and for ourselves. So everything begins in the realm of the unseen, everything. Even you did. You and I, at one point, were a no thing. And then we became this big thing. And how did that happen? Intelligence moving, intelligence forming itself. So everything begins there. Everything begins behind what we can see and flows into the scene. So does it make it all the way through, or is there a little blockage, a little dam we have built up? Some boulders in the way, you know. Here's the thing about, when I was first starting, I was asked to work once in a while in the children's program. And one of the ways, the best ways to learn this teaching is to try to teach it to kids, because they already get it. And they want you to do something besides just talk. You might be feeling that right now. Well, one time in Tennessee, this is an aside, there was this little girl that she was about 5, and we didn't have a children's program yet. And she would come every week with her mother. And she'd sit up there and watch me, very polite and nice. And one day she came up and got right in my face and she said, someday I want you to dance on that stage. All you do is talk, talk, talk. I said, believe me, I'd rather dance. But anyway, to try to show it to children is like there's a vessel you're holding, like a milk bottle, and it's pouring in, and if it's already full, it can't go in there, but it will go somewhere. You know, so prosperity, if it can't come through us, if we haven't set our soil, if we haven't tilled the soil, if we haven't made the choices, if we are not inspired to embrace prosperity, it'll come, but it'll go somewhere else. Because it's always coming, right? So how much can we accept? How much can we receive? This is what Ernest Holmes said. We can only take as much as our consciousness will allow. So that's why we're always building and expanding our sense of who we are in the world and what is possible for us. Because it will be diverted. So last week I wrote on my blog, so much of how we react or respond to the stresses of living in our world is determined by the condition of our mind and our soul. The operative words are always clarity and order. We can withstand the slings and arrows of life if our mind is clear, that we are part of something beyond this world, that we live immersed in a power so vast it creates universes out of itself, that life is for us and never against us, that we are greater than any experience, that everything is temporary and moving, and can change in a flash. Whatever you're dealing with this morning, whether it's health, wealth, love, whatever it is, it can change like that. Sometimes so fast it makes your head spin. It comes when we have opened up the space for it to happen, for it to come through us. And it's always in the mind. So, order in the mind comes from having those truths firmly in place. Everything's temporary. I'm greater than my experience. We are part of something beyond this world. And then we can access the simple solutions that are always available. Then we can see through the problem. And that's what a person with a clean mental health will do every day. Judge righteously, not by appearances. See, this teaching was all there. It's been there. It was there with the Buddha. It was there with Jesus. It was there with many, many ancient people. And science has actually come onto this page. So this stuff is real. And we want to take it personally. I often joke, but it was true, that I was in this teaching for a couple of years before I realized they were talking about me. That I just was all into the theory of the whole thing, right? It's about us. So every great spiritual teacher has indicated in some way that life is very simple. It is we who complicate it. And, you know, I think the ego likes drama, don't you? Have you ever known someone you called a drama king or queen seemed to be feeling more alive if they were creating drama all around them? It's just one thing that people do. We do all sorts of strange things. But we have to counteract that stuff. We have to challenge it in ourselves. And we have to pull ourselves up short sometimes and say, Carol, what are you doing here? Are you just trying to make trouble? Or are you trying to make happy? Are you trying to promote love? It's a choice all the time. And not to demonize the personality or the ego. They have a function, but to smooth them out. Soften the edges a little bit. We can do that with our own mind, with our own choices, by taking some time. So I guess in today's world, we could say we need less drama and more love, right? So I have an affirmation I've worked out, and I invite you to say that loud if it feels comfortable for you. So, I give my soul permission to shine through my eyes, to reveal my love, to clear the path before me. Okay, so I made up another one just for fun. I do not roll with the punches. I roll with God, the river of life. That's the way I roll. All right, let's go into treatment. Let's firm this up with some words of truth. I know that everybody here today has had something shift within their own mind, their own heart, their own soul, their own awareness. Whether we are aware of it right now or not, something has shifted, something's on the move, something's coming up from the hidden recesses of mind into the conscious mind, into the consciousness. Something is on the move through you and through me that wants to happen, and it is good. It's always good. As it comes from the depths of our soul, it's always good. It brings with it opportunities, new relationships, new opportunities at work, new ways of being with our family, our children, our parents, new ways of seeing the world. It is always new, and it is always greater than the past, and it is always driven by this mighty rolling river, the stream of consciousness that runs throughout this universe and says, I am. I am this, I am that, I am everything. And that echo is in us. I am more than I seem to be. So today we take this teaching even deeper into our consciousness. We take it more personally than ever before. And we give ourselves an opportunity to raise our perception about who we are, about what this life is, about what the world is, and about what we can do right here in the center to promote these beautiful truths, to give it to the world, beginning right here in this city. And so what comes up for us is gratitude. A big thank you to whatever got us here. A big thank you to the forces within our own mind that pushed us into accepting a teaching like this, even being interested in it. We're grateful for that. We're grateful for whatever happened in our life that turned us within, whether it was from childhood. It could be anything, even something the world calls negative, but it turned us within and caused us to look for answers. That's why we're here. So we're grateful for that. We let it go. It has served us well. And so from this moment on, I know for each one here that life has a gift. And then another, and then another. And all God does is knock at the door of our consciousness and says, let me through. Let me pour you out a blessing such as you have never known before. Before you call, I will answer, but call anyway. Call with consciousness, call with belief, call with choice, call with having a use for more good in your life. This is the way of the mystic. This is the way of the pure of heart. This is your way. This is my way. And we are deeply, deeply, deeply grateful for this place, this teaching, everything about it. We say yes, and we let it be. And so it is. Mm-hmm.